Well, Israel and Hezbollah are on the brink of an all-out war. Hezbollah firing more than 100 rockets into northern Israel, injuring several civilians as reported. We're also learning several homes damaged as well.
A lot of developing news right there at the moment. Israel has been hitting Hezbollah weapons depots. They've told civilians to evacuate from the weapons storage sites. Kinneret Hamburger is an IDF reserve officer who just returned from Gaza after fighting Hamas for several months, and we welcome her to the program. What can you tell us? I know you may be limited in what you can say, but what can you tell us broadly about the situation in Gaza?
Well, the situation in Gaza is tough, just like it has been for the past 15 or 20 years. Hamas is still around on ground. Obviously, the IDF is doing everything in its power to eliminate these terrorists and make the lives better, not just for Israelis, but also for the Palestinians in Gaza as well.
Yeah, we're also talking about now Hezbollah and a possible all-out war with this terrorist organization. Can you speak to that and also the intricate attack, the pager attack and the walkie-talkie attack that claimed the lives of several of those affiliated with Hezbollah? Mm-hmm. How sophisticated was that? What went into something like that?
So first of all, of course, it was a very impressive procedure, whoever may be standing behind it. But I think that what we can learn from this attack is that Hezbollah, just like any other terror organization, they live in between their own civilians and they're endangering their own people. And the fact that there were civilians maybe affected by this attack, by these pages attacks, just shows that these terrorists are among each other. And these aren't just regular civilians, just like you and I. These are terrorists. And in this specific terror organization, Hezbollah, they're a proxy of Iran. And they're the ones standing behind all this. So Israel, when fighting this terror organization, Hezbollah, that's sitting in a sovereign country, Lebanon, needs to do anything in its power to protect its people. That's the basic contract between a state and its people. And therefore, if needed, then yes, it will carry out an attack against, this specific time it was by pages. And that just maps out that fact that the terrorists are absolutely everywhere, not just in the south of Lebanon, but also in Beirut and central civilian areas.
I'm glad you brought that up. Can you talk a little bit about the challenges of that the IDF faces with this reality of an enemy that doesn't play by any of the same rules? You have the most ethical army perhaps in the world, some would suggest. You have a code of ethics that you follow, and yet you're fighting against an enemy that is in plain clothes and, as you mentioned, woven with civilians. And yet we have these protests in New York City from people who seemingly don't understand what you're up against there and who talk about the deaths in Gaza as if these are intended targets of the IDF, when in fact you are fighting against people who often you can't tell if that person is a civilian or a terrorist.
It's quite accurate what you're saying. I could speak on behalf of myself, but I'm sure that I'm speaking on behalf of many Israeli IDF soldiers and officers, and just Israelis at all. I don't want to hurt anyone that's innocent. They don't deserve that. My heart breaks. It really breaks when I see the footage from Gaza and kids suffering. But matter of fact is, when they are governed by a terror organization, and the terror organization hides these weapons in babies' homes, in homes, in babies' rooms, in schools, UN schools as well. And the Palestinians themselves actually elected the Hamas terror organization into power in 2005. Then obviously we understand it's a bit more complicated what's going on. And the IDF, before entering and eliminating all these terror organizations, if it's terrorists themselves or just the weapons, the leaflets let out to tell the civilians, evacuate. We don't want to hurt you. We want to protect you, and we just want to hurt the terrorists themselves to make a better Middle East for everyone. So their phone calls, their leaflets, they've been through the humanitarian paths, humanitarian tactic stops in different areas, so people in Gaza can still carry on as much as possible their day-to-day life during this war, while the IDF is doing everything in its power to try and fight this terror organization.
We are coming up on the anniversary of that attack on October 7th. I mean, it's just right around the corner, and it's such a, it will be, as it is each and every day, a difficult time. You think about the hostages, the families that have been affected since this moment. It's going to be a year now. Can you speak to maybe some of the critics of the IDF that don't believe in still staying in Gaza, or that disagree with the IDF's mission or the Prime Minister's mission, again, to fight until those hostages are released. They call for a ceasefire. They don't want IDF in Gaza. They don't want any more destruction. What do you say to them?
First of all, I don't think anyone wants war. And I think that's a basic understanding that we all need to get through our minds. But when talking about war and intelligence, there's always two vectors you go along with. The first one is the capability and the ability of your enemy. Are they able to carry out another attack? Are they able, after this operation in Gaza, to carry on attacking Israel? And the second factor is the intention. Do they have the intention to do what they're saying they're going to do? Now, once you understand that, the whole situation in the Middle East changes. Because what has been going on for years is that there are many Israelis, which maybe some of them said Hamas doesn't have the ability to carry out any attack against Israel like happened on October 7th. But some of them said they may have the ability to do so. We even saw that physically. We saw them training for it. But they don't have the intention. Now, that's something that not only Israel and Israelis need to understand during the past year, but also we were talking about what's going on in the United States. I think the Americans need to understand that as well. When your enemy, Iran, at the top of it, is saying they want to hurt you, they're going to carry out terror attacks against American citizens on your land and all around the world, we don't have the luxus to not believe them. I think we all don't have the luxus to not believe our enemy when they tell us they want to kill us. And therefore, we need to be doing everything in our power to eliminate these terror organizations and also hurt Iran dramatically. And that's also with boots on ground, but it's also obviously in diplomatic ways and sanctions and different other diplomatic tools that we've got with our allies all around the world.
Now, one would think that the chance of death to America and death to Israel at these Hezbollah funerals over the weekend would drive that point home. But still, you know, we're seeing these anti-Israel protests in New York City. We have some sound that we want to play regarding that. This was what it looked like earlier this month. This is an anti-Israel protest, and they actually tried to argue with an Israeli supporter, if we could hear that.
I would also be Hamas if my family was displaced for generations and generations and generations.
Go back to Israel. My country is America. Your country is Israel.
By the way, that's my neighborhood. So these are my neighbors saying things like this. And it's incredibly frustrating as a journalist who does understand your reality. But I'd like to know from your perspective, you know, devoting your life to this cause, what do you wish these people could understand?
You know, I'm going to call out from here to everyone that's watching us. I'm Kinneret Hamburger. I'm 24 years old. I live in Tel Aviv. You're more than welcome to come over, stay by me. I'll show you around. I'll show you the Middle East. I'll show you some of my Palestinian friends, some of my Israeli Arab friends. Just come and have a look for yourself, and I think that will take care of some of the ignorance, for starters at least.
Well, it starts here, so we really appreciate your presence here. Thanks for coming on the show.